Oh, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. It is that tantalizing time where we talk about Tinto Talks again, and I've read like the first like three paragraphs, and I just gotta say, I fucking called it. I called it. And that's great news. That's great news. Anyway, no. We'll get into it. What we learned at the end of last week is that we were going to be talking about buildings, constructions, infrastructure, and we were also learned in a comment after the fact where I asked about, or not asked, but I made a comment about cloth not being a raw resource. Cloth would be a manufactured good, and we were also told that that was going to be talked about as well. And holy shit, I called it. Let's get into the dev diary. Let's read this. Oh, I can't. This game is a magnum opus, I swear. Welcome to another Tinto Talks, the ninth of its kind, where we talk about our very secret game using the codename Project Caesar. And today we continue with the third of four talks we have now about the economy systems of the game. So let's start and talk about constructions. In the previous development diary, we mentioned constructions and how you needed lumber for expanding the mines. In this game, almost all constructions require different materials to progress, and if that material is not available in the local market, then that construction is stalled until the material is available. This includes things like road building, shipbuilding, recruiting, regiments. I called it. I fucking called it. Oh my god, I am beyond happy about this. For someone who didn't watch my previous video, I said that I was imagining that you could potentially be having a requirement for goods to recruit regiments, such as needing horse goods to recruit cavalry, or having iron to recruit early game infantry, or having gunpowder for, later game cannons and later game infantry. It's right here. It's straight up right here, and it's not even being expanded upon yet. Hopefully later in the dev diary it'll be expanded upon. That would be great. Building buildings or expanding RGOs, like, making the mine deeper, perhaps. So here we have a monastery in Girona, which requires stone, glass, and lumber. And glass is a manufactured good. It is not I guess it is something you dig out of the ground, sort of. You need to do stuff to the stuff in the ground to make it into glass. It's a manufactured good. And yeah, no, this... Oh, can you tell I'm a bit hyped? Not sure why you'd want another monastery. Why not? It's in Girona. That's Spain, right? Very necessary to have many monasteries. For example, building a light ship in the age of Renaissance requires naval supplies, lumber, weaponry, copper, tin, and metalworks. Excuse me? While moving your capital requires paper, books, fucking books, stone, lumber, marble, and gold. Can I just say the depth here is immense. One of the things that people were worried about when the proximity control dev diary came out is that, wouldn't it be just too easy to have a real easy way of getting extra control in other regions is, just move your capital to closer there. Would that not be too cheap, too cheesy? Yeah, no, apparently not. Apparently you are going to actually have quite a lot of requirements before you can do that. So, fantastic. Buildings are rather important in Project Caesar. There are hundreds of different types of buildings. What? What? Johan, what do you mean there are hundreds? What do you mean? How are there hundreds? Oh my gosh. Some can only be built in rural locations. Some require a town or city. Okay, so something we've seen in Imperator. Some can only be built in ports. Makes sense. Some can only be built in other countries? Excuse me? Are we talking like built in my vassal's land, or can I build a thought just popped into my head. What about if we build a mercenary camp in another country, in our allies' country, so that they can use our men as mercenaries in their army? Maybe, I don't know. That's probably not how that works, but it's just a thought that came in that I have not actually mulled over yet. But built in other countries, excuse me, what are you talking about here, Johan? Some you can only build when there is no owner of a location. I imagine that's like a colonial, like a port, colonial port, or outpost, that sort of thing, potentially. Lots of buildings are unique to cultures. Okay. Regions, religions, or even specific tags. So this makes me think, like, monuments. Monuments sometimes are unique to specific tags. But I don't know. I don't know. These are buildings. They're not monuments. That kind of, I don't know. Some buildings can only have one level. Some have a fixed cap, and some have a cap that scales with the population or development, and so on. Or development. So this is also something interesting. We haven't actually heard what development is. Are we going to have a development number that takes into account your population, your infrastructure, your control, and gives you a fixed number of, this province is 34 development, taking into account all of these factors, and then maybe that is what is impacting its price in a war score situation? I don't know. We have no idea what development means. Buildings can also be categorized into 3 different categories. Buildings that can produce goods, buildings that only give effects, and buildings that can be built by the estates, or only built by the estates. So they're getting a special selection of buildings, that they can build. Those pure estates usually have a drawback to them as well, and it's not easy to remove them. So here we have an parish church. Gives the following benefit. Candles? It produces candles. What is this game? Johan, what is this game that you are making? I can't believe it. If this is the sequel to EU4? What? But anyway, I believe this is something that the the church's estate, is going to be building. Because it gives the clergy a ton of power, and also gives a ton of power to the peasants as well, in that location. No idea what these boutons mean, but the candles. I assume this is producing candles. Required production methods needs glass, paper, wool, maybe, beer. Beer is a trade good. Oh gosh. No, that is, what the actual hell is this game? So what about producing buildings then? Or maybe I think he means production buildings. Well, that's where the truly fun parts of the economy start. Project Caesar has a large amount of different goods. We currently have about 70 different goods that have different needs. Some are needed for the military, some are needed solely by pops, some are needed for buildings, and so on. Producing buildings in towns and cities go from guilds and workshops to manufactories and mills. At the end, the late game of the game, the end of the game, these include everything from paper makers guild to foundries. A producing building outputs one or more types of goods. Finally, we have buildings that are purely... No, I'm not going to move on to this yet. I'm going to talk about this. This is exactly what I was asking for. Like, I fucking nailed it. I saw that we were getting, lumber, and we were getting stone, and these were called raw resources. And I was like, yo, but if we're going to be having, raw resources called that in the province screen, surely there has to be a way to get these other resources that we have in EU4, like cloth and glass and... my mind's going blank on bloody precursor relics, dames here. You know what I mean, right? Those will actually both be raw resources, I guess. But that's what I'm talking about, right? Raw resources and produced resources, they can't go in the same category. So I thought there must be some way of getting them, and are we going to be able to do it via constructing buildings? I nailed it. And you know what the best thing about me nailing it is? I was aiming high at what I wanted the game to be. I was like, in my mind's eye, the best possible version of EU5 would have this, and we fucking got this. And I'm blown away. I am beyond happy with this. Sorry, let's move on. Finally, we have buildings that are purely giving an effect. These include granaries that increase how much food you can store, libraries that increase literacy, different types of forts, buildings that train manpower. Buildings that train manpower. That is a very interesting way of phrasing that. In EU4, the barracks would give manpower, not train manpower. But, of course, we have a pop system here, so... I'm so looking forward to learning about how the military works. Obviously, we know there are levies and, standing armies. But there's more, and we don't know yet, and I'm excited to find out. Port buildings to help with shipbuilding, and much more. And we also know that there are no building slots. So you're not going to be locked out of building a port because you happen to put a bloody temple down. You're not going to have to delete the temple, that's positioned inland on a hill, purely so that you can make space for a harbour by the sea. Just a grievance of mine. So the castle here, it takes 1,000 fucking peasants. Are we sacrificing peasantry to mix their blood with the mortar? Is that what we're doing here? But we have stone, I assume metalworking, I assume armaments, and is that oil? Is that pitch? I believe this is pitch. Interesting. Some claim you can build stockades of wood, but we trust only stone. Almost all buildings, though, have a production method. Okay, so not everything from Victoria 3 is poison. Some things actually might be worth looking at taking. So almost all buildings have a production method which impacts how they work. Production methods. All buildings have at least one production method slot with one production method, but many have different methods in each slot, and there are plenty of buildings with multiple production method slots. What is an production method, then? Production method is a list of goods that are required for a building to function. There are two categories of production methods, those that produce something and those that do not. As an example, a castle does not produce any goods, but it still requires stone, metalworks, weaponry, and tar. Okay, I should have just read on to see what that was. It's tar. I mean, I'm not wrong, though. Tar and pitch, they're the same thing. I could have also said bitumen. Well, I think the Americans pronounce that differently. They don't call it bitumen. What if you're American, what do you call bitumen? You know, the black shit that you lay on flat roofs. I don't even know if you have the same kind of... Whatever, anyway. And if it does not get those goods, then the castle will not function properly. Oh my gosh. Oh no. I just had a thought. If you're going to war with somebody, maybe economically fucking them over to the point where they don't get the goods that they need is going to make your castle cease to function properly and be much easier to take. That's cool. That's just cool. The effectiveness of a building is based on the lowest available percentage of goods present, and will only purchase and use required materials in that percentage required. If the market cannot supply enough resources, then it will not work. The output of the production building is also scaled by the percentage mentioned above. So, production method for the Paper Makers Guild. So we have, we can choose what kind of resources to use in the construction of paper. And you'll also get a little thing telling you, what is the most profitable, I guess. So if you want to use leather and wood, if you want to use wool, no, I doubt it. That's a straight up hemp leaf. Okay, which makes sense. Hemp and rope actually makes a lot of sense. But yeah, choosing which kind of production method to make. I assume there will be a way to mass change all of the buildings in your nation, which would be nice. Is a production method going to change the output? Because I'm not sure I would entirely like that. Because if it changes the output, then you kind of can't have, or you can't use, a all change every building to this please button. That's okay. I don't know. We haven't seen nothing here is said that it's going to have more than one output, so we'll go with no for now. And of course, you can automate the production method selection. Good. I like this. This is good. This is good because, as we know from Victoria 3, it starts out being quite enjoyable changing production methods and trying to min-max when you have a small country and you are, industrializing on a small scale with a small nation. But as soon as you get, any kind of scale in your production, it becomes just a fucking chore to the point of, ludicrousness. So yeah, being able to automate it, fantastic. Which will adapt it on a monthly basis based on what resources are available and what would be profitable. That is so good. That is so good. And if that's not, resource intensive, as in, making your game slower, that's just fantastic. The UI also allows for macro decisions regarding production methods. Exactly what I was asking for. Macro decisions change every building at the same time. Perfect. Other important aspects. Every building requires employed pops to function as well. And those that require upper class pops like burghers, clergy, and nobles also increases the potential for them in that location, making pops slowly promoted. This can be slightly awkward as powerful nobles or clergy construct more buildings that make them more numerous and more powerful. Makes sense. Producing buildings that are not profitable will be closed, and pops will work in other buildings. However, you can always subsidize a building if you require the goods or the benefits it gives. This is Victoria. This is This, in the early Marvel films, I can't even remember which one it was. It could have been maybe the Avengers, right? The first time we saw Thanos, and your your Titan, puts on the Infinity Gauntlet and says, "Fine, I'll do it myself." That's the image I'm getting here. This is. I don't want to be too mean, but. Victoria 3 being cocked up to such a monumental degree that Johan takes the EU5 glove, puts it on his hand, and he's like, "Fine, I'll do it myself." This is the all-encompassing grand strategy game. I swear, if somebody made an 1836 mod day fucking one, we would have the new way to play that period, the new standard way, the better way, the perfect way to play that period. I can't believe this. Oh my gosh. Yes, so, subsidizing buildings. Speaking of profit, the profit of a building is added to the tax base of a location, split among the power of the population in the location. Then, of course, you are taxing your estates. So, all wealth is very much, diluted down the chain before you get it. Your goal would be to undilute as much as possible. You can always close and open a building if you want to manipulate prices, or if you want your pops to work with other things, and you don't want to destroy the building permanently. I mentioned last week about different ways to get raw materials, and only one way to get it, beside trade, is through a set of rural buildings. These include lumber mills that you can build in any wood or forest location to produce lumber, sheep farms, stone quarries, and many more. I want to know the many more. I'm not going to lie. I know we got mines, I assume, maybe, some kind of, dock situation for getting more fish. Maybe. So this stone quarry requires metalworking, lumber, and leather, and gets stone as an output. There is... One of the criticisms of EU4 is that everything you do is just building up to a war, and then war is what you do, right? There is so much more to this game, so much more depth to your peacetime. Holy. I am honestly blown away. I am honestly blown away with the scale of what we're seeing. And, like, I don't think we're going to get a Dev Diary number 22 situation where something is going to just blow it all up in my face. I can't see it happening. This looks like it's going to be... Johann's and Paradox's magnum opus. It really, really, really looks like it. Get out of here. Oh my gosh. There are stockpiles of... Oh my fucking god. Oh my god. You have got to be kidding. There is no way that this is coming along and just blowing the fuck out of everything that came before it. There are buildings you can build to increase the amount they can store. Okay, so they're stored in the market, and you can build things in the market that can increase the amount they store. Okay, makes sense. As if you do not have the goods required for a building unit or construction, those will not function. Speaking of markets, something we'll talk about more next week as we delve into the trade system. What is this man cooking? What is this man cooking? Man went down to Barcelona, set up his own little studio, hired who the fuck he wanted, and proceeded to cook. He proceeded to cook. No, I can't believe this is what we're seeing right here. I am blown away. I am blown away. Yeah, look, I want to know your thoughts. Are you like me? Are you speechless over what we're seeing here? Is this making you as excited as me, or am I like an odd one out here? Am I just like fostering a hype that is undeserved? I don't think I am. I think everything I am getting hyped at is deserving of that hype. I think this looks phenomenal. It really does look phenomenal. Yeah, it's just... Johann, I beg, don't 22 us. And, you know, it's not a deep reference to get. If you know what it is, then you know what it is. It's not that deep. But don't 22 us, and we're going to be very, very happy, and you're going to make Paradox a lot of money. Because, holy, this looks phenomenal. Thanks all for watching. Leave your comments in the comment section below, and I'll see you in a few days for the responses and the comments that Johann has made since. Get out of here. This is phenomenal.